Elephant, buffalo, hippo, kudu on the dam wall, nyala, impala in the background, and of course, not to mention the birds, but this beautiful scene that we're playing out now. My name is Mark, and Brian is with me on camera this afternoon. The Ellies were sort of on the southern end of the dam, and they were heading north to the mud spot. They were drinking up close to the dam wall. I suppose that would be down, and the direction of the wind and the activity that goes on, not really much happens in that area other than drinking, so the water stays a lot cleaner up there, and the prevailing wind blows a lot of the algae and a lot of the muck down to this end of the dam, where not only the elephant but the buffalo and perhaps warthog and other large mammals tend to wallow and tend to mud bathe a lot. So this down in this end is the mud wallow area, and for the time being none of that mud really washes into the top end of the dam where they drink from. The water's a little bit cleaner over there. It's a very big matriarch to this little group. And she was quite bold about moving the buffalo away from her family so that she could get down to the muddy part of the dam. Always got to clean behind the ears. Must have a bit of an itch, I think. Just heard her rumble. I've just heard a vocalization from her, and I'm looking off towards the dam wall, and there's another family of group of Ellies that are coming in. None of her children, none of her herd reacted to her rumble. They all stopped and listened. Of course we can only see her on camera, but they've all spread out. They're all feeding. They've had a little bit of water. They've had a little bit of a mud bathe. I'd like to maybe try, this pan. We've got hippo, buffalo, nyala that are drinking, kudu on the dam wall, as another female brings her family group into the water. We're going to see the same thing happen here. Hopefully they're going to come down and drink and then move along maybe to the mud. But that might change because the other female, the one we've been watching, her youngsters and her daughters are starting to move towards this herd that are coming in. Now that little one coming in the spillway, that's a little elephant with some pretty big tusks for a little elephant actually, chasing off two little nyala, a nyala and her lamb that were drinking. Oh, that's the little floppy ear, that one that's got the little floppy ear. We've seen her before. Her. got the little left. There's another very much younger Ellie's got 2 floppy ears. That's something I need to make a note of actually, because I've been meaning to look up floppy ear syndrome. The strangest thing was when we last had a floppy-eared Ellie, a little one with 2 floppy ears on camera. It was about the same day or around about the same time that there was an elephant at Pete's Pond, maybe a few days later, an elephant at Pete's Pond in Botswana on the Pete's Pond camera. Now, unless these elephants can teleport themselves, or they've got some help from some friendly aliens, there's no way that an elephant is getting from Kruger to that part of Botswana where Pete's Pond is. I think that's Mashatu. It's not impossible, it's just that there's just so much city and humanity and industry in between that it would take a very long time for elephants to go around up north to the Zambezi River, and then, or even to Limpopo River, and then around. This is very interesting. And buffalo's not even showing the slightest interest. Oh, now he is. At first he just lay there chewing the cud in front of her, but she's just, that little movement that she did now, she sort of just moved her body and swayed one leg towards the buffalo. It was just sort of to move the buffalo on. The other family are moving away. They have made vocal contact with this family. They might even be travelling together, just that this cow is a little bit later than the other cow. There could be other reasons too. She's a lower ranking cow in the greater scheme of things, and she has to wait until this cow that's just been here until she had finished. And that might have been what the rumble was, that this cow that was here rumbled to say, well, I'm finished now, you can come into the water, because very often you'll find that there has to be a succession if they're not always together at the water. So they might be in vocal contact with each other, they might be following each other, but they're moving as separate family units. RC wants to know what bird it is that's seen. RC, I'm not sure, I've just seen it just flown over. I'm not sure if they're pipits or long claws. Anything I can hear at the moment. This has also been the herd of buffalo with a very young bull. Not the very young calf, but a young bull that's with them. There is so much happening here today. She's trying to chase the heron and the buffalo. Hello, Mrs. Ellie. And the little one. Brian, the little one's doing this. The little one's copying its mom. And of course it is a little boy. Now they are splashing water where they're drinking. And even another family may be coming in at the back, unless it's the lagging little boy. But they're drinking and splashing in that side of the dam, and they're probably going to come over here to do a mud wallow. And I got a question from David. And David is in Miss Jacob's class in Assumption in Illinois. And it's really good to hear from you, class, all of you all. But you don't talk like that up in Chicago, that's all down south, I suppose. David was asking how long does a baby elephant stay within the family. And there are 2 Nyala bulls sparring. And there are more impala. The kudu have left. More elephant coming. Seems to be the place to be this afternoon. Well, David, the young females, the young girls, the little girls that are in the herd, don't ever leave their mother. They stay with their mom forever, because they then become they become mothers themselves. They become moms, and then they become the leaders of their own herds. And that's really how these family groups are made up. They're made up of a wise old teacher, like this particular big Ellie that's in charge of this herd. She's going off to have some mud, and then she's got a daughter, who's that one there that we're seeing now coming past the buffalo, and they've got with them their 3 calves. There's probably 1 calf of the daughter and 2 calves of the older mom, and that's that family group. Or it could be that the other 2 coming in now might also be part of this family. Another daughter and her calf, the second daughter and her calf. But the daughters will always stay together with their moms. That's the little boys that move on and become independent. And that hippo is almost upside down now. But I'm sorry, I'm just explaining things. I don't expect Brian to try and follow everything that's going on, because we make you so dizzy with the camera zooming backwards and forwards. But there is a lot of activity here this afternoon. Look at that. Hippo is almost upside down. Feet in the air. And nose rolling over again, of course. I think he's trying to scratch his back. One more time for Miss Jacobs' class, Mr. Hippo. Feet in the air, roll on your back. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Never mind. So, Mrs. Ellie is now having a mud bath at the same place that the other Ellie did. And I'm sure that this Ellie that is having this madam, this matriarch of this family, since the matriarch of the other family was talking to her, I'm guessing that they might be sisters, and that once upon a time they were following their mom around, and their mom was the matriarch, and now they've become the matriarchs of their own families. So they don't really stay together all the time, but they do follow each other around, because they both learnt all the right places to eat food over all the years that they were with their mom, because sometimes it can take 40 years that an elephant will be with its mother, following her pathways that she learned from her mother, and that went on all through the generations. They teach their children where to find the right food and what time of the year to find it and which areas to go, because they have hundreds of miles that they follow, different routes throughout the year for the different seasons. Little boys, the young boys, they start leaving, they start lagging behind the herd, and they will leave the herd probably about the age of, I suppose, about 15 on average. That's never a set age. Sometimes younger boys will go and join up with older bulls at a younger age, and sometimes only when they're in their later teens. See, now this little one is probably about, I'd say, 4 or 5 years old. It still doesn't really have the dexterity, the ability to splash itself like its mom was, or its grandmother was doing. The old lady could pick up mud in her trunk, and she could throw it in the air to land on her back in a very special place. But the little one, by the age of 5, can do a lot of things with his trunk, but he can't really aim the mud at a very certain spot, so he just splashes, and sometimes they just lie down. And she's just asked them all to stop, because I think she's listening. She's probably listening and talking to other elephants, and she makes all the other elephants stop walking so she can listen properly. That would be quite a time lapse. Ellie's flowing in through the spillway, chasing buffalo coming past, mud past. So. mention this on the radio. Observation Slumbian Love leaving Juma Dam, heading east up towards Mvubu Road. Also Nyari and Bubu and a lot of other general at Juma Dam. Now we could probably try and go across the dam to follow them. Oh, eagles just come in, frightening everything. Distant call of the Murrays. Not sure what it is, can't see from here. Oh, it's that pale Wahlbergs. It's our friend, the pale-faced Wahlbergs, coming in for a drink. And maybe a bath, too. They should be leaving fairly soon, the Wahlbergs. Blacksmith Lapwing doesn't like that because the Wahlbergs is a bird killer, and the lapwing nests on the ground. It has its chicks around the edges of the water. But all the eagle wants to do really is drink at the moment and probably have a bit of a splash. Takes us out. Off it goes. Quick drink. Oh, Kudu just appeared from nowhere. Kudu's drinking.
I'm hoping that bird would fly.
Good afternoon, James. James is asking about the possibility of fires with the bush drying out the way that it is, and I think Scott and Brent might have mentioned that there's not much more chance of rain. Well, I think we've still got a chance of rain, but there's not much chance of growth if there is rain. What rain will do now is it might give the appearance of greening up a little bit, but all it is, it'll be the leaves. The leaves of the grasses opening up, and the leaves on a lot of things that are wilting, that seem to be wilting, that are hanging in this heat. There are a lot of these little plants in front of us. In fact, what the rain will do is it will open it up and just feed them a little bit. But it's too late to get new growth. It's too late for the bush to get thicker and thicker and to provide a lot of food for the rest of the season. So there is a fair amount of dry grass. We didn't have a great season, or a rainy season, so the bush is not as dense as it maybe can be during a heavy rain. But it is starting to be very brittle in places. And the heat of a fire on a very hot day with a little bit of wind, because things are wilting and because things are folded up at the moment, despite them being green, just the heat and the wind of the fire is enough to desiccate the plants and dry them out before the flames get to them, because there's always a heat wave in front of a fire that does that. It becomes quite intense depending on the intensity of the fire and perhaps to a large extent the time of the day. It can be a very hot fire with a heat wave that maybe extends 20, 30, even 50 yards ahead of the fire, so that the plants are drying out before the fire gets there, and by the time the flames get there, it's got dry material to burn. So it is, at the moment, a very critical time going into the dry season. It's a critical time to prevent those things to make fire breaks. And to a large extent, there are fire breaks that are slashed with a tractor and a slasher down to sort of almost ground level, so that should there be a fire, the flames drop down to a manageable height. But also that those fire breaks can give easy access to be able to do a backburn, which is sort of start a fire ahead of the fire against the wind, so that by the time the fire reaches that area, it hits flame and burnt area already, and the fire that burns against the wind isn't as maybe destructive. But yes, there will be fire breaks that are burnt on certain roads, along certain boundaries. It becomes the responsibility of every landowner. If you own property, whether it is a farmland or a natural area, it's really the responsibility of almost every landowner to ensure that there are fire breaks around their property. However, it does become a little bit different. The law, I think, or the motivation behind fire breaks becomes a bit different in the private reserves and in Kruger, because there are different fire management policies, and it has to be managed as a whole as opposed to individual little properties. But it is still essential to create areas that have fire breaks that are either giving easy access to, I wouldn't say fight the fire, but to address the fire, as well as easy access to do either anti-fire measures or to fight it, I suppose. Fire is a part of nature. There will always be fire. It's something that nature has learned to live with. It's something that is sometimes crucial, vital. It can be detrimental if areas are burnt at the wrong time of the year. You've got to remember that there is hopefully a large seed load of grasses and plants lying dormant underneath all this dry matter, and it needs the animals to move around to stomp the grasses and to flatten the dead twigs, to feed the soil so that those seeds can get food when they germinate. And a fire can destroy all that. Although in some areas, of course, especially down in the Cape, there is an area where fire is crucial to the ongoing survival of many species of plants, and it's probably one of the most diverse botanical regions in the world. Australia's got some plants in some areas like that too. And hello again to David in Ms. Jacobs' class in Illinois. David wants to know if the terrapins, well, David's calling turtles, well, do they bother the hippo? Well, the hippo's just tipped them off and has been replaced by an oxpecker. I guess sometimes, David, I think that sometimes, like we get bothered by flies, I think sometimes they do bother the hippo, because I don't know if they bother him so much just by sitting on their back, but the terrapins eat ticks and other things off of the hippo, and sometimes if there's scratches and cuts on the hippo from fighting, then the terrapins can bother the hippo that way by nibbling there. Generally not. Most of the time they're not really bothered because they're sleeping and the terrapins sit on their backs. But I'm sure sometimes it gets ticklish, because even now the hippo looks like it wants to get rid of the two birds that are called oxpeckers on his back. And David was also asking if the hippo bothers the buffalo, or the buffalo bother the hippo. And sometimes, David, sometimes they do. When the water gets smaller and smaller and there's only a little bit of mud, and they've all got to squeeze into the same little bit of mud, then their personal space gets a little bit invaded. But I think now, at the moment, I think everybody's quite happy to be... I think there's something about that hippo's back. He doesn't like things on his back.
I think he got nipped by a terrapin there.
Oh, underwater, you mean?
Underwater, yeah.
Yeah, could be. Because the terrapins will also take ticks and things off of the buffalo. You'll often find them swimming around these big animals lying in the mud. But I'm sure they can nip quite hard sometimes.
And they take this a little bit too much. Get the tick and a little bit of skin.
Or a delicate area.
Yeah.
Like the tummy. Or under the arms. Thanks for the questions, David. I think it's like we get bothered by flies sometimes. Alright, I think it's time to go and see what Brent's up to. And we're going to carry on and see what else we can find. Oh, Brent's off the vehicle. Okay, I'm going to show you something then. Never mind. I'm going to show you. I brought something along on our drive this morning, but especially since I've got the class with me, I think you might all be interested in this. This is a bug. And yeah, it is dead and dried. That's the skeleton. So this is now time for Remarkable Creatures live on WildEarth. And this is it looks like an alien, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is a rather large bug, and it's commonly known as a water scorpion, but if you count the legs, it's only got 3 pairs of legs. So it's an insect, and it's not a scorpion, which is a spider family. The scorpion belongs to the spider family. But now this, unfortunately, because they're not easy to come by, you can't find them very easily. I've got another one, actually. I found 2 on the same day, so there must have been something going on that made them fly around a lot that night, and these 2 must have hit a light and landed on their backs. You see, they live in the water and they can fly around in the air, but they don't do very well on land. They're kind of like a water scorpion out of water. Not quite like a fish out of water, because they got legs, they can move around, but they need to take off and then fly and then find water, because they need to live in water. Now what's interesting about the water scorpion is that it belongs to a family of insects known as bugs, and one of the very important things about bugs, and I'm going to need to find something to point out. The wind's blowing. This is so light, it's getting blown by the wind. I'm going to put it on the black surface. Might be better. Now the wind is still giving me trouble. Okay. Give me a moment. This is going to work. There we go. I need something to point with. Make it a piece of grass. There's a very sharp you can see right next to this little piece of grass there's a very, very sharp, it's almost like a straw, and that is what makes a bug, because they don't have things to bite with. They don't have like jaws or anything, they just have that. But that doesn't mean that bugs can't bite, because some of them can, and that means that what they do is they just push that very sharp mouth part into their prey. Also what these things have is these very, very big front legs. You can see the very, very, it's like, what do they call those? Biceps.
Oh, biceps. Yeah, your biceps.
Yeah, because that is the upper arm, and then there's the forearm. But it is very much like a praying mantis. You're right, Brian, because that's what they do. They catch fish, they catch tadpoles, they catch anything that they can underwater, because they live underwater. But one of the most fantastic things that there is about this, as you know, and Ms. Jacobs will probably have taught you, that insects don't breathe through the mouth. Insects breathe through a hole in the abdomen, and the abdomen has segments. There are different segments of the abdomen, and on the side of the abdomen there is a hole, and that hole that's where an insect breathes. So for this insect to be able to breathe underwater, well, it doesn't really breathe underwater because it breathes air, it doesn't breathe water, is it has a very, very special pipe that links all of those holes on that side and all of the holes on the other side, and it brings them together almost like a straw that is cut down the length in half, and then they come together, they make like a tube, and it sticks that tube up, so when it's sitting in the water, it sits with its tail in the air, and it breathes its air just through that tiny little tip of the tail. And this one, which is slightly different, got a little bit more of a breathing tube. You can see it sticking out at the back there. You can almost see the 2 parts of it. Maybe I should bring it closer.
No.
No.
I won't be able to get focus in a second.
Where's your closest focus?
Okay, I'm going there. Yeah, there.
There. That very sharp thing. Not the leg. Let me move the leg out the way. But there. Now there's another species of water scorpion that has a long tube that's sometimes 3 or 4, sometimes even longer, 5 inches long, and that looks like a sting, it looks like a tail, and that's why it's called a water scorpion. This particular species doesn't have that very long one. There must be hundreds and hundreds of species of water scorpions, or water bugs we call them, and they all eat other insects, they all eat fish or tadpoles, whatever they can catch, but they're very, very tiny ones. There's some that might even find their way into a swimming pool, and you might find them, and they may be as small as a fly, or even as small as a flea, in fact. And they can give you a little bit of a nip, because they'll try and get your blood. But generally what they're looking for is they're looking for mosquito larvae. So these are very, very helpful insects. Not only because the very small ones can actually keep mosquito populations down. Quite amazing to see one of these insects eating a fish, a fair-sized fish of 2 or 3 inches. So it's quite a vicious lifestyle that these insects have. Anyways, that is remarkable creatures for today. I don't know who it was that asked us about the water scorpion, but there was somebody who asked a while ago to find the water scorpion. Those two I found probably could have been last summer during the rains. There weren't that many insects last summer, but I'm slowly collecting a lot more because the last of the insects are starting to die off now as we go into the dry season, but we're also getting a lot colder temperatures. You can see these colder temperatures coming in now with the coloring of the leaves. The leaves are starting to turn yellow and starting to drop from the trees. It's very, very early. We're not even in the middle of March yet, and these things should be happening only around the end of April, going into May, that we start getting this sort of color happening. So we're looking at maybe an early dry season. Hopefully there'll be rain. There's a big storm happening right now directly behind us, and we might get to see it around sunset. It's right now, it's probably going over Acorn Hook and the mountains of the Drakensberg to the west, and it's moving north, going into the northwest. And that might be an indicator that there is weather that is building up over the next few days, that we might get. All we need to see a storm like that, and we'll show you later, happening towards the southeast, and we know it might come and get to us. But let's carry on. Maybe we can find some live living things now. Oh, I nearly got I see the thumbs had a good rest. Was it hard babysitting the thumb?
Not really.
Not really?
He's quite well behaved.
I thought maybe he'd go a bit wild. So let's go see what Brent's got to do, got to say, got to show you, or what to tell you. He's been looking for the lion from this morning. And, well, I'll see you in a little while.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, I'm sweating a little bit. Karula the Queen has given me a run around. I've been up and down the drainage line. I can't seem to find tracks. I went back to the last place we saw her this morning. Really difficult, lots of thick grass, no real clear patch to see tracks. But don't worry, I haven't given up yet. So we're still in the area. We're still working the block, checking all the roads around. Possibly she might have crossed out and we missed the tracks. But I've still got a good feeling that we're going to find her. I just have to work a little bit harder. The other thing is that if she is, if her tracks don't come out, she's in this really small block that I've walked twice, quite big sections of. But the thing with a leopard like Karula, she could be sleeping in one of these thickets and just not even lift her head as I walk past, and I'm not going to see her already unless she moves. I just got a feeling we should check in Yala Road North. As I said to Andrew, we started off down there and I was like, no, this just doesn't feel right. Trust the gut, as Andrew said. So we're coming back to where we've been, but it feels right, whereas the road didn't feel right. Sorry, I'm being mauled by flies. And my ears are going to start looking like that hyena shortly. Okay, so she went into this drainage line that was coming out, but we can't coming out. Maybe he's been walking top. We're just going to check very carefully. squirrel alarming, but he doesn't actually sound that stressed. I don't know if you heard this morning when the squirrels saw Karula, they've made a hell of a racket. Let's keep going. That alarm for me sounds more like there was a Shanghai tracker I worked with, actually on a shoot for a travel channel show, and then big squirrel. Oh, hello, little kudu. So he could tell you, and he was right almost 80% of the time. When he heard a squirrel alarm calling, he'd be, no, that's a bird, it's alarming at an eagle. Sure enough, you'd look around and you'd see a bird of prey. And then he could say, no, that's a leopard, we must go check that one. Amazing man who can speak squirrel. Well, I don't... That's amazing ears. Radar dishes. Constantly scanning. And they've got the extra alarm system and the oxpecker on them. Here comes an adult female across. Also with her immobilizer. Such graceful animals. Oh, look at oxpecker gleaning for ticks. It's amazing how these little combs in their beak, they manage to run through the fur. Come, could you go spot Karula and start barking so we can find her. Strange how some days all you wish for is a kudu. And now when we're tracking, a nice interlude into the experience. The squirrel was alarming around here, but as I said, I don't think that was a leopard. Shaking all the trees, you never know, you might get lucky with a leopard up a tree. Oh, jumped across the road. See if you can see him. Checking this drainage line.
Welcome back, everyone. I just been out looking at some leopard tracks. I was here this morning and these tracks weren't here this morning. I just want to I suppose make it easier, make it quicker. Use the vehicle to have a look. Because it seems this cat left the road briefly, and I would like to walk each of these roads and turn rather than drive them. Driving them just wipes out the tracks. There's a lot of footprints here. Somebody was walking up and down last night, so these tracks should be on top of all of these footprints. Just another way, just another point that I forgot to mention. Looking at that insect earlier, I mentioned it is a bug, and it is one of the few aquatic bugs. I think there are more bugs that live above ground, above the water. Only one type of insect known as a bug, that particular type of insect, that has a shield shape on the back. We also get bugs that are known as shield bugs, but they have those mouth parts. They are not beetles, they're not anything. It gets confusing because in a lot of countries, a lot of people call everything a bug, and that's not really correct, because there is only one kind of insect known as a bug. I didn't want to get too confusing with things. I think this cat came along here. I might have headed. Morning to Kathleen in Nebraska, morning to you, afternoon from me. Kathleen in Nebraska wants to know if there are any villages close by that have cattle, breed cattle for food. Kathleen, outside the reserve there are several villages. In fact, towards the western edge of the Sabi Sand, in the northwestern corner, or rather, sorry, I suppose you could say northwestern corner. There most certainly are. There are villages and communities right up against the fence. But here, the closest village is a few kilometers away from the gate to the Sabi Sand. Kathleen wants to know, how do they keep predators from attacking their livestock? They're not only cattle, but they have goats, they have pigs, they have dogs, cats, geese, ducks. Oh, not many geese and ducks, mostly chicken. Generally, the fence of the Sabi Sand, it's what we call a game fence. All game reserves, national parks, wildlife areas, particularly wildlife areas of the big five, especially animals like elephants and things. There is a standard fence that has, or a standard I guess a standard fence that has to be built to be able to separate the wildlife from the human communities, and a certain number of electrical wires on both the inside and the outside of these fences that stop the large mammals from breaking through. There are always animals that break through. There are always animals that are small enough to get through despite the electrical wiring. Leopard know how to jump over the fences, especially where there are trees near the fences, and there is a real problem. There is a reality that every now and then lion or leopard do break out, and they do claim some domestic stock. It's not as bad as some parts of East Africa where some of the reserves and wildlife areas are so vast that they can't possibly fence them. And so you have communities living with the wildlife. I mean, I've lived in a number of places in Kenya and Tanzania where there seems to be some sort of, well, I suppose Africa has lived with wildlife, human Africa has lived with wildlife forever. It's only since the settlers came in that changed, really. And in the process, humans impacting onto wildlife areas with agriculture and farming, and just, we know what that's all about. So there's always conflict, and unfortunately that just gives the humans an excuse to go out with guns. It's really sad. So this cat didn't come this way. Hyena came this way. Could have maybe only gone down towards Philemon's cut line or straight across the open area. Another possibility. Excuse me, don't. For the most part, the animals avoid the human areas. Well, I wish the humans would avoid the animal areas, because that's why we've got a poaching problem. It's nice and cool with a little bit of cloud. This big storm that's brewing over the escarpment. So I think we might head back to Brent for now. I'm going to follow up on these things. I might need to go for a bit of a walk to see where these tracks went to. And we'll see what Brent is up to.
Fine. Welcome back, guys. Andrew and I are still on the hunt for Karula. We're just doing a bigger loop in case I missed some tracks. So, fingers crossed. If we don't get any luck now, I'm going to actually head back down towards the Twin Dams area and see and follow up around where I left Kunyuma's tracks this morning. Yeah, but hopefully... We might just do another swing past Buffelshoek Dam as well, see what's there. There were some buffalo there. I forgot we did see buffalo. So I'm just looking to where these guys, wow. I don't think those lions would have gone that far. Oh, wrong radio. Craig coming. Yeah, I checked from from Gowrie cut line through to Buffelshoek East, and the only tracks I had were from this morning and where they went straight north at the last position where I left them. Bumpy. Very strange weather. It's like the tail end of a, if you have a look at that there, tail end of a cold front, although we're not getting any of the cold at the moment. It's still very warm. You can see, I don't think we're going to get the prettiest sunset this evening. I'm still listening to radio. Long haul heading east. Airframe coming. Please, if any of those Nkonzo, you see those Nkonzo getting close to either Buffalo's Hook cut line or Cheetah cut line, please can you just keep me informed? There's some Nyala. So it's always good to switch off and keep quiet. You never know what you might hear. So I've got a question for you relating to the spiral horned antelope. Just go forward, there's a better view. How many spiral horned antelope do we get in the Sabi Sands? You can send your answers to questions@wildearth.tv or just use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Exquisite antelope. Itchy nose. See, it's feeding off some of the smaller, looks like herbs or small bushes, maybe a small acacia that we can't see. Remember, they don't really eat grass at all, they're browsers, so they only feed off the trees. You see what I'm pointing at? Tiny baby Exuvialis. So that's probably what that Inyala is feeding off. Even though from this distance it looks like it's eating grass, it's more than likely not. It's eating a baby acacia. Yeah, let's see what else we can find. Leave the ladies to themselves. Let's see if we... Definitely one of my favorite birds. Should get a view of one of them now. So that's red bush willow to the right at the back. It's the most clear, I think. So, all over the place. So, arrow marked babbler. You can hear they're very aptly named by the noise they make. There we go. Yep, there you got them. Very distinct little arrow marks on their chest if he turns around. But they do make an incredible amount of noise. Very gregarious bird. Only babbler we get in this area. Sorry Alex, the game drive channel was quite loud. Can you go again? Four. So we got Jessica, Lisa, so Jessica and Lisa got it correct with 4 spiral-horned antelopes that occur in the Sabi Sands, and Botti. And we see them reasonably often. Or 3 of them, no, they are Inyala, Bushbuck, Kudu, and Eland. Even though Eland is very, very, very rare in the Sabi Sands, I've only seen them once. They do occur in the Sabi Sands, but very, very rarely. They move big distances. So the 4 spiral-horned antelope that occur in the Sabi Sands are Kudu, Inyala, Bushbuck, and Eland. Even though an Eland isn't a Traphalagus like the other 3, it's a Taurotragus, it's still a spiral-horned antelope. The other, I heard there's a lot of people said Sitatunga. A Sitatunga is a spiral-horned antelope and one of the 5 that occurs in southern Africa, but it only occurs in northern Botswana. It doesn't occur in this area. There is 3 other, if I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, there are 3 other spiral-horned antelopes that occur in Africa. So let's see, while we try find Karula, if you guys can find out what are the 3 other spiral-horned antelope that occur in Africa, apart from the 5 that occur in southern Africa. The 5 in southern Africa are Kudu, Inyala, Bushbuck, Eland, and Sitatunga. Sorry, what did I say? 3, 4. There's 4 others. I nearly caught myself out there. Alright, I just need to check what's happening in Buffalo's Hook. There's people following lion tracks, and I'm trying to make sure that, see if they come towards our boundary at all. Mark 2 copy. What area are you working at the moment? What area are you working at the moment? Mark, come in. It went from Chele Pan almost directly south into the block. He crossed the road. There was only a very few tracks on the road before he crossed into the block. Probably, yeah, that could quite easily be him. What, are you still in that area? Because we've checked this area around Karula. I've gone around and around, and I've checked for tracks in the drainage line. I haven't been able to find anything, so I think I might make my way out of the area. Okay, copy. Confirm you're gonna keep checking on those tracks. Definitely would have been after. He was on a bushback kill for 3.5 days in the same position off in Yala Road South. Okay, sorry, Alex, back with you. I was just chatting to Mark on the radio. What's the last one? Can you spell it for me, please? Gemsbak.
The new one.
Copy, I've never heard of that species before. Okay, are there any other answers in? Copy, I will stop now when we get to Buffalo Dam. So just give people a little bit more time. So we've got some answers coming in for the other spiral horn antelope in Africa, including a species I've never heard of. But we're going to give you a little bit more time. We're going to go to stop at Buffelshoek Dam, and then we will see who's right and who got the closest. Come on, Karula, pop out on the road. Be nice. So I think she's still lying up somewhere near on the edge of this drainage line, but for the life of me, I mean, I walked up it, I've walked down it, I've walked through it. I just can't find any tracks. Where we lost her was really thick grass, and I mean, it's very possible that she didn't actually go into drainage line. She just stopped and slept in one of these numerous thickets around here. well, it's really down and there's no tracks. Alright, Franklin. Okay, we've arrived. Alex coming. Okay, you can read names and answers to me again, please. Jessica and Sally say Bongo, Sitatunga and Gejemsa. Okay, one is correct. Sitatunga is one that occurs within Southern Africa. Bongo is one of the ones missing. I'm not sure what a Gejemsa is. Maybe if someone can send a picture to Alex and he can try to describe it to me. Anyone else? Julia on Twitter, Bongo, Greater Kulu, Gemsbok, and Sitatunga. Again, Greater Kulu and Sitatunga occur within the Southern African sub-region. So Bongo is the only one there. Gemsbok is not a spiral-horned antelope. Very straight horns. And that's all the answers we got in. So, okay, the spiral-horned antelope that occur out of the Southern African sub-region. I'm not getting funny with subspecies and stuff like that, but complete separate species is Bongo, which everyone got right. The other one is Lesser Kudu, which is a different species to Greater Kudu and only occurs in East Africa. The other one is Mountain Inyala, which is endemic to Ethiopia. And the last, but certainly not least, is called the Lord Derby's eland, which lives in Cameroon, Central African Republic, and yeah, I think that's there. CAR and Cameroon. Maybe a little bit into Southern Sudan. I'm not 100% sure, but I know for sure in Cameroon and Central African Republic. Those are the other spiral-horned antelopes in Africa. Hello, hippo. So he's quite happy not to have all the elephants frolicking about in his little pond. So we're just keeping quiet and listening again. But I think we have tried very hard in this area. I might just take a break from the area now, head a bit further east, and then come back when it gets a bit darker to see if Karula comes out of the block. So it is still, even though you can see the light's quite dull, it is still quite warm. Oh! Ha! The hippo didn't like that. The heron tried to land on his back and he decided, no, none of this nonsense. He took offense. It's amazing, there's only one hippo bull in here now. And a couple of days ago there must have been 25, 30 hippo. Okay. There's a lot of people on Twitter saying Gedempse is a mountain in Yala. So you were correct with the mountain in Yala. I've just never heard that name for them before. So as we're going to leave the buffalo and the hippo, and we're going to head back towards the Buffelshoek cut line and go down towards our eastern boundary, cheetah cut line. Have a little scratcher on there because the wild dogs that were seen this morning that were lost, their last general direction was towards there. So always worth having a quick poke around that area. Temperature's dropped a little bit, that's quite pleasant. There's another email sent in saying Gedempse is actually mountain eland. I've never heard of a mountain eland. If it's a mountain anything, it's going to be a mountain in Yala. The other eland species in Africa is called the Lord Derby's eland and is endemic to the moist broadleafed woodland of Central Africa. Good afternoon, Becky. Welcome on Drive. Becky's saying, I've traveled so much, have I ever got to see wild gorillas? I have, Becky, but not the mountain gorillas in Rwanda, Uganda, and Congo. I spent a year in the Central African rainforests in a country called Gabon, So I saw gorillas quite a few times in the wild there, but those are western lowland gorillas. And we were operating in an area where those gorillas had never seen people before, so it was quite fascinating. Actually, one of the jobs I had there was to look for gorillas. So I've been quite lucky. I have seen quite a few in the wild. Definitely gotta watch my ears. Those flies have been at them. Don't want them to start looking like that poor hyenas.
Who's Lord Derby?
Lord Derby is who the eland was named after. I'm not 100% sure. He probably would have been the first person to shoot one, or European to shoot one, because that's how you used to name things in those days. So like Burchell's zebra, although Burchell quite interestingly was one of the only naturalists who didn't do his own shooting. So even though lots of things named after him, Burchell's zebra, Burchell's kukul, and quite a few insects, and I think even a bat.
Starling.
Burchell starling, another bird, well done there. So Burchell actually hired two Cape Malay staff members to travel with him through Africa. The one guy's name was Klaas, and his girlfriend who did all the cooking and cleaning's name was Deirdre. And in honor of all the work they did for him over the years, so Klaas used to do all the shooting for him, and Deirdre did all the cleaning. Two of the birds he described, a Klaas's cuckoo is named after his sort of 2IC in camp, and a Deirdre's cuckoo is named after Klaas's girlfriend who did all the cooking and cleaning. Mark, do you copy? Alex is trying to get hold of you on the other radio. So what we're doing is we're checking for those wild dog crossed. So we're going very slowly down this boundary road. So while we're just checking for tracks here, we're going to cross across to Mark, see what he's got, just check in with him. So enjoy, and we will see you just now.
Hi everybody, welcome to this side of Djuma, and this is Jiga. My name is Mark with Brian on camera, and I was following up on some leopard tracks, but I've lost them, and I need to go back to that place where I lost them, down in Philemon's Dip. Haven't seen anything. I thought if I came past Treehouse Dam, I might find that he'd come to Treehouse Dam, but he hasn't. But for now, I'm with you. I don't want to leave the vehicle and go off walking, so see if I can pick up some more tracks somewhere. Interesting name that was thrown over the radio that I've never heard of before. Evidently another name for the mountain Nyala. What was it? Cadenza or something?
That's the one.
Hmm?
I think that was the one.
Sounds like something like that. Never heard that before. I'm wondering what language it is and who found it. It's strange that I've just never come across that name anywhere before. Or if it's another language. Or if it's maybe just a colloquial name where they occur up in East Africa, I think Uganda, Ethiopia. Maybe not Ethiopia. Uganda, I think. I'll need to check my mammal book. I think actually Jonathan Kingdon has some alternative names. I'll turn into it. So I wonder where this cat went now. Okay, let me have a look quickly. Try and read and drive at the same time. Kuru Eland. Mountain. Yes, there it is. Shows how much I read my book, innit? Gedemsa with an M, not an N. Gedemsa, the mountain Nyala, up in the Horn of Africa. Formerly that is Ethiopia. The southeastern highlands of Ethiopia. And limited to the Bale Massif. Only in Ethiopia, not even in Uganda. Flourishes best in a mosaic of high altitude, woodland, bush, heath, moorland and valley bottom grassland. Interesting. Very interesting. It just goes to show that quite often, as much as one learns about nature, as much as one becomes a part of it, and there is so much to learn in this little world that we live in, that sometimes the greater world out there becomes this impossible task to understand it all and to learn it all. And even the spiral horn antelope family, and that they are limited to a very small range. I thought it was sort of Uganda, Ethiopia, but it's not. It's only that little spot in Ethiopia, and obviously quite a threatened species. But because it is just so far out of my range and so far out of the realm of my possibilities of being there, that I guess I haven't learned anything about it in any way. But I learned something new today, thanks to whoever that was that sent in Gedemsa. And there's been in my book all along. A dog-eared book that I've been reading for years. Paging through. Would have taken me another few years to even get to learn that. So thank you to whoever picked that up. Gedemsa. Maybe it's an Arabic word. Lord of Derby, English aristocrats. Thomas Gray, the English naturalist, named the Derby eland after 13th Earl of Derby. Thanks. John in England? No, you asked. John. So, cat didn't come out here. Cat didn't go there. Cat didn't go south, east. Okay. Thanks, Sharon. Sharon is my living encyclopedia in Austria. A caldera in the highlands of Ethiopia. Probably the mountain yarl are named after the area where, I suppose, maybe they were first found. Perhaps. Caldera being an extinct volcano. Crater. If I'm not mistaken. Okay, now that I was missed that, whatever that was. Okay, no tracks out here on Rebecca's road, so this cat's still down there somewhere. Train coming. Get to follow up on my original task this afternoon, and that was to try and get to see if we could find some wild dog tracks. Getting further away from the lip. Range coming. Where are you at the moment? Okay, this cat hasn't come out. It's down there somewhere in Philemon's Dip. I've been on a big loop, can't find any tracks coming out anyway. Okay, copied. Yeah, I just did a bit of Rebecca's heading up to Impala Plains to see if I can follow up on any of the ducks, and I'll pop into, pop in there. I'm pretty sure it's in that drainage line from Philemon's Dip going down towards Chelapan. Send Brent into the cat's den. But there were also wild dog tracks seen coming up onto Juma, to the west of us. And I believe that the hyena den is active, so maybe we'll go and pop into the hyena den once we get in the general area up here. Of course, gee, unless the dog's been sleeping all day. It's been a long time since their tracks were found, and it's not easy to keep up with them at the best of times. We can only see if we can find tracks, try and find a general area where they've been operating, where they've been running, or sleeping, or hunting, or just being Dogs. Dog. Yeah, boy.
That's not very much fun to do.
Mary. Hello, Mary. No, the name of that book. Unless you can't hear something rattling on the door or trying to identify a knocking noise apart from a squeaking noise. Mary wants to know the name of the book we've just been looking at. It is Jonathan Kingdon. This is a beautiful snakeskin. He says, getting distracted as he always does. Beautiful snakeskin. Jonathan Kingdon is a renowned mammologist. Let me show you before I go and have a look. I'll give you the ISBN number. Where did I put it? There. ISBN 0-12-408 355-2. Jonathan Kingdon. It is the Kingdon Field Guide to African Mammals. This is an old edition. As you can see, it's a little bit dog-eared. I paid 2,990 shillings for it. Probably in Kenya, when I was in Kenya. This particular edition is the 1997. I think this is the first edition. There is a new one that's come out that has more information on things. And I was lucky enough. Somebody sent us one. Can't remember who. Beautiful book. The highly abridged version of the works of Jonathan Kingdon. Oh, the snakeskin. I wanted to look at it because it's really, really pretty. So the snake, when it sheds its skin, it's like pulling off a sock. It would have started at the head, and it would probably have used this little spine over here. This is from the sickle bush. It's a dead branch from the sickle bush, very, very dry. It's even got parasites inside. That's why it broke off so easy. Parasites, actually wood borers that are inside. Sorry, Brian, try and keep it still. Let me put it here on the steering wheel. Got a black background. But it probably would have used this spine over here to just hook the upper lip of the skin and peeled off from the head, and the snake would have moved around the branch. This was wrapped around it like that, and it would have been peeling off like a lady would peel off her stockings. So it's not a very big snake, very small scales. Doesn't mean that it's a small species. It could be a baby of a larger snake. The snake comes off, the skin is shed. It's a little bit wet and very, very soft, and then it dries out a little bit. So this is now a dried skin. This is probably very fresh, probably in the last day or two, because it's the entire skin. There's the tail, Looks like a female snake because it's got a very small, short tail. The males have longer tails. This is the underbelly. Try and see if we can see anything from the head. As far as the shape of the head is concerned, not very easy. Sorry, I'm taking it out if I need to look closer. I don't know, I'd have to count scales. I'm not seeing any markings on it at all. And I'm not recognizing, would have been a very smooth skinned, or rather smooth scaled snake. Very narrow. So possibly something like a juvenile marbled or variegated bush snake. Probably one of the harmless snakes. Very pretty skin though. Needs to go inside the reptile book for preservation somewhere amongst the snakes. One of these days, if I get around to it, I can count the scales across the back or the scales on the head and get some idea of what type of snake it was. Easier said than done. To admit. So I hope you got all the details of the book, Mary. Very interesting book about African mammals. You'll find some very interesting variations in all the different species of monkeys and bush babies, galagos in Central and West Africa, places that Brent's actually managed to visit and where he's managed to experience some of that firsthand. Now I'm wondering, if I'm not mistaken, we had tracks here this morning. Any station with a PC client, always sharing anything on the radio. But the repeater's gone. Done it again. Sorry, Alex, if you're talking to me. I get out of the car and I forget to plug in my earpiece. Any station with the PC car on Zoe? Thanks, Elvis. Thanks, Uncle. Only one youngster out of the den. Probably still a bit warm and a little early to go to the den. That beautiful sky. Looking west, you can barely see the mountains. There's quite a rainfall going on over the mountains. I think most of it is fading now. A little bit of pink. Surely it can't be that time of day already. It's hard to keep track when there is this big cloud above us. We've got the mirror effect actually happening on the southern side of this big bank of cloud. In fact, we can actually see the next storm brewing behind it. That's probably a lot younger, an anvil or mushroom forming in the distance. But they're just far too far west, these storms, to have any effect on us. Much higher rainfall along the escarpment where all the fruit is grown. Fruit, there is maize grown for biofuel, but a very big mango and citrus area along the mountains, amongst other things. Yeah. I think somehow the radio's on scan and it keeps jumping to channel 2. That's the problem. I can't get to it because the monitor's on top of it. I can only do it later. No, it's not the new radio, it's this radio. Hello, Alf in the Netherlands. What we're looking at is a little slender mongoose that's hopefully going to come back onto the road. There we go. About twice the length of a dwarf mongoose, body-wise, but then it's got that exceptionally long tail. Intrepid little hunters. They climb trees, steal birds, I've had slender mongoose catching birds at a bird bath. I've had them chasing baby squirrels. I'd love to try and get closer and get a better view of it, but this is probably some of the best slender mongoose sight we're going to get, because generally they just dash across the road before we can even get a camera on them. And there's something going on here because it's very wary. And the way that it's standing up, using its tail for balance, like a meerkat. I suppose making sure it's safe to venture into the grasses. What was that? The squirrel that ran along the road after it. Must have been what it was listening to in the grass.
not push it down on the
That
button?
is. The button's right under the monitor. I think that's what it is. That the monitor's pushing down on it. That's probably the monitor that's touching the channel button rather than the scan. Sorry, it's like conflict of equipment here. No sign of dogs here. Although I don't see how. If it was Triple M South, how could it be here? It's way down south of even Arethusa's airstrip, so I don't think so. I think someone's wires were crossed. Not serious. I might find something else. It's getting very dark, very dull actually. It's quite strange because the sunset is covered. This cloud has made it darker than it should be, sort of half an hour early. One thing I wanted to talk about, did anybody see the photograph just before drive? Gosh, I spent most of the afternoon searching through photos. When I I finally got around to watching that footage of Tara and that big bull elephant. And you were on, weren't you?
No, it was Andrew.
Oh,
Andrew was
I just heard wow, and I couldn't tell whether it was you or Andrew wowing. I could hear Tara wowing a few times. So I tagged you instead of Andrew in the photograph. I can fix that later. But I was asked when I came back from leave the last time. See, this is how long it takes me to get to things. I don't know why. I suppose it's because I'm doing too much at once and I forget things. Tara had a wonderful encounter with a big Ellie bull. And one thing I noticed about him was a very distinct hole in his upper left ear, in his left ear. What you watching, Impala? Impala off in the bushes looking up this way. I'm not seeing any tracks in the road. And I knew that I just knew that elephant, and I remembered that elephant. I found a photograph from March 2011 that of him. It's not a very clear photograph of him standing behind a termite mound, just peering around the termite mound. So it's not such a great photograph that I could post it. And I knew that I had one of him, or of it. I had one photo, or I had a couple of photographs of a big Ellie bull standing in front of me on the road going home in the Timbavati. Dwarf mongoose and drongos. Whoops, the baby tripping over itself trying to cross the road. And try and move off to the side. Maybe we can see them. Now, I seem to think that it's the same Ellie, but I started thinking about it after I posted it, and I was wondering if the hole in his ear is it maybe in a different place. You can't really go by the tusks because the tusks would have grown since 2011. Changed. So it'll be interesting if anybody's looked at that comparison. Hello, children. Maybe we're going to have to let this vehicle come through. There's a mongoose that's going to join the rest of the crew. The rest of it coming through now. Lost the tip of its tail. We'll call that one Induna. Just on principle. There he comes. Half tail. See, on the right you have a normal tail, about the same length of tip of nose to the tail, length of the body. The one on the left, well, there's a baby that just dived into there. Now I'm getting cleaned by an adult. This is a family coming home. They've been out all day probably, foraging, digging up grubs and spiders and catching things. And lizards and small snakes. All sorts of rituals when they get back to the den in the evenings. A lot of grooming, whether they're grooming themselves or they're grooming each other, called allo grooming when they groom each other. Toileting, communicating, bonding, playing. Go ahead, Tex. Negative, not at the moment. I'm up near Sandy Patch. No, I'm going to go around there in a while. I left, I think Elvis was still there and then there was no one after him. Elvis has left. Hyena den. Go ahead, Alex. Sarah in California. Hello, Sarah. Are there any snakes here that are not venomous? Yes, actually probably 90% of them, Sarah, are non-venomous. Only a handful of venomous snakes. And then, of course, there are far too many to explain. But I suppose of the few snakes that are venomous, there are only really a few that are of any real concern. I think the snakes that are the most notorious for getting us humans into trouble are the puff adder, the Mozambique spitting cobra, maybe the Cape cobra, which we don't get in this area, and maybe the Biberon's burrowing asp or stiletto, Biberon stiletto. Snakes like the black mamba and the green mamba and the worm slung and the vine snake, which tend to be highly venomous, are not really encountered by humans that often, that there are that many bites. And although the worm slung and the vine snake are both probably the most venomous snakes, they're rather mild-tempered. So we're going to cross over to Brent. He's got something to show you, and I'm going to leave these children to carry on with their business. We seem to be preventing them from doing what they need to do. We're going to see what else we can find. It's dusk, so maybe there'll be things emerging. Maybe we'll be able to find something about to wake up and venture into the night. I'll see you shortly.
Hi guys, welcome back. So Andrew and I have been checking where Mark had those tracks of that male leopard, and we found a hyena walking up the drainage line, and we're just going to follow it for a little bit. Maybe the hyena will lead us to the leopard. I mean, hyenas are well known to track leopards, to try to steal their kills. There it is. Oh, what do you spot? Don't think a leopard. Tail didn't go up. Don't go that way. We might be going in an area where we're not going to be able to follow. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to loop around in front. We're not going to be able to follow that unit through there. Voila! Back on the track. Oh, there's another vehicle there. Ninja Info. Good evening. How's everyone doing? Oh, and the hyena has disappeared. So guys, we're going to keep checking for that leopard. Those tracks went into this drainage line. And hopefully we'll come right. Hopefully as it gets a bit cooler, he's going to start moving. So I think we're going to check back down Weaver's Nest towards Chelepan, where he drank last night, and see what else we can find. What do you think, Andrew? Should we keep going down Ingwe Alley and come round to... Yeah, I think so. Let's give Scott's Ingwe Alley a go. There's a strong possibility that hyena might have found the leopard and saw it had nothing and thought, well, why should I waste my time with you? And just carried on walking. Good evening, Susan from Tennessee. Welcome on Drive with us this evening. Susan would like to know, why are some animals named lesser and greater, like the kudus, for example? Well, Susan, it's quite a nice, easy answer. A greater kudu is physically quite a lot bigger than a lesser kudu. So, greater being the larger, lesser being the smaller. And the same with bush babies, although the names have changed. The original names for them was a greater and lesser, a big one and a small one. Nice, easy one to answer. Come on, leopards.
Come on, leopards.
Exactly. You speak to them. Obviously did not rub myself in enough buttered popcorn or Chanel number 5 before I went out and drive this afternoon. Temperature is now almost, it's still a little bit warm. I think in about another 15 minutes it's going to be perfect. And here the arrow marked babblers babbling away. One of Scott's little sneaky routes to find leopard we're using here. Whoops, big hole. Watch the antenna. Should be okay.
Yep.
Spotlight, can you see it behind me? There. Should be. Or did I move it? That's a very strong possibility that I did move it. I got it. Sorry. Nearly lost my cameraman there. Not looking at the road, looking for the leopard, and I hit a big hole. Quite a strong smell of elephant in this dip. Good evening, Kari from Costa Rica. Welcome. Kari would like to know, what would a hyena do if it met up with a hyena that wasn't from its clan? Well, Kari would be a very, very upset hyena and would actually, probably if it was one-on-one and it thought it was bigger, it would attack that hyena. If not, it would call for the other members of the hyena clan to come join it, and they'd get very excited. So they would start with that long distance contact, that and they would call each other in, and then they would call in reinforcements, and then they would probably try kill that other hyena if they could, and that other hyena would probably try call for reinforcements from its clan. The only time this doesn't happen is when a male is migrating between clans, and even then he still might be beaten up by the new clan, but he will show submission and sort of try very delicately, and sometimes it can take him months to be accepted by a new clan. But that's how hyenas ensure genetic diversity, is by males migrating between clans. Wonderful. Let me just turn these off a little bit. Skyline with all these lovely big knob thorn acacias as we're driving past. Absolutely stunning. I'm feeling lucky now, Andrew. We're in like prime time now. There's no tracks coming out of the block. If I was a leopard, this is the time of day I'd want to be moving. When you see me turn my lights off like that, it's because there's a nightjar in the road, and if you leave the lights on, they get a little bit blinded, and they don't fly away, and that's how a lot of them get injured on big roads, sort of main highways in Africa. There's a lot of them out tonight. Another one. One of the most well-known calls in the African bushveld is of the fiery neck nightjar, and I always find it quite funny watching quite a lot of Hollywood movies, and someone sitting in the cabin in the woods in Alaska or in Maine or somewhere in the United States, and in the background you start hearing a fiery neck nightjar. I'm sure Hollywood's got lots of soundtracks. They don't always know where the sounds are coming from. What we're going to do is we're going to stop up here on the corner of Quarantine. We're going to switch off for a little bit and listen, see if we can hear any alarm calls. And what we can do is I'll actually play you guys some nightjar calls. Well, we'll start with the most well-known, which is the fiery neck nightjar, and then you can see if you can hear it in any TV shows or movies where it's not supposed to be. But as I said, it's always good to switch off and keep quiet for a little bit.
Second one poking his head out. I don't want to talk too loud because they have very sensitive hearing, and this is a pair of bush babies. There might be others. Nice to have found a nest, because we come here at dusk one day and before we have to use the light, get that sort of afterglow of sunset, we might get them silhouetted coming out of their hole, maybe sitting on the branch. I think they're a little bit intimidated by the light. I'm not going to keep it on them for too long, but they're also listening. They're focusing their hearing in various different directions. This is the lesser bush baby, or lesser Galago, Africa. Well, the smallest primate here in Kruger, not necessarily in Africa. That one is the youngster, the one on the bottom looks bigger. Hope you can see them. Come on, children. Come on. Come on out. Reminds me of a little bush baby that was raised by friends of mine and released back into the area where he came from, which was around the house, the outside of their house. And he just reunited with another family of bush babies, and slowly but surely stopped coming back to the house. It was amazing how he recognized me after being away for about 3 months. Now they have very large eyes for their nocturnal vision, and their eyeballs are so big and their skull is so small that there's no room for the muscles to allow high movement, and so they move their head to be able to see different directions. One of the reasons why that head is constantly moving like it is, and for them to focus stereoscopically, of course, they have to move their heads around a bit. Just dim the light on them a little bit. I want to put the light directly on them. You can see the light. I'm trying to bounce it off of the branch of this marula tree at the bottom left. Use some of that light to bounce up onto them. They first pick up the sound of a moth or an insect with their ears, and then of course with such big ears they're able to focus where that sound is coming from with their stereophonic hearing, and then as long as something is moving they'll pick it up, and they can take extremely big leaps from tree to tree If trees are too far away, they'll jump almost lemur-like or kangaroo-like from tree to tree, bouncing on the ground like a rubber ball. I think the little one's getting restless. Tail probably twice as long as the body. That's the little one's tail that just flopped out because it turned around. Now, one of the things that they also do is they urinate on their hands and feet, and they wipe it everywhere, wherever they go, and that helps to demarcate their territory. Now, in the dry season, when the insect numbers drop considerably, the diet changes from insect to the sweet sap of some of the trees, and they'll score the bark of a tree, like an acacia or something, with their canines, and then it'll exude sap or resin. And it can be, some of the acacias produce quite a sweet resin. A lot of primates do feed on it, but it's almost exclusively fed on in the dry season by bushbabies. That sort of constitutes most of their diet. I don't think they're going to come out with the light on. If I just drop the light away from them for a bit and just leave the camera where it is, it does probably look dark. Come on out, children. We have 3 of them now. Yesterday, Marianne in Arkansas asking if they vocalize. They do. They have communicative calls. They have a very loud clicking alarm call. They make like soft squeaking. Well, my friend Diane can make that noise because she was a bush baby's mother, but adopted mother. Like a spishing noise, the noise you when you make it. I can't do it properly. Can't do it properly. The alarm call sounds like that. A little bit of a well, I must have. It was just duck in the hole when I was doing it. So my alarm call's not too bad. Okay, we're gonna leave them be. Oh, coming out again. Let's leave them be. I think there's more than enough time to have some light on the little bush babies. And we're gonna try and get out of here. Maybe if we can go over to Brent while I try and extricate myself from this sticky situation. But often we see bush babies when we're driving with the light, and when they're out and about before, well, after they get out from their nests, from their holes in the trees that they live in. Once they're out and about and they're foraging, all you can really see sometimes is this little thing jumping from branch to branch. It's very hard to actually get them on camera. And the best thing is to find a place where they live that you can maybe see them emerging, and that was just very lucky. There's on the edge of a branch. Oh, yeah. Off he goes into the top of the tree. 2 leaps, it's jumped probably 15-20 feet up into the marula tree. You see the other one's coming out. Not yet, but the other one has gone way up into the tree now. There. The light. Just off to the left. No, I lost it.
Yeah, even to your left a little bit more. Not in there.
There's the baby. And back in the hole. It's a little one. There he goes, coming back to baby. Maybe she caught something. And could be caught something and brought it back.
Welcome back, guys. So as I was saying earlier, we're going to talk about nightjars. So I got their calls out here. So the one I was talking about first, which was the fiery neck nightjar, which is really synonymous with the African bush, and which hold it up to this one.
Yeah, either or, I think.
Yeah. So there we go, that's the fiery neck nightjar. Apparently Alex says it's way too loud coming through there. Is that better here, Alex? Okay. There we go. There. So that's the fiery neck nightjar. Sorry. I think I deafened our director in FC with that one. But then the other nightjars we do hear here quite often. Another one of my favorite calls is the freckled nightjar. And the best way I can describe it is he sounds sort of like a little Jack Russell going bow wow, bow wow, bow wow. So we'll play him, probably a bit better than my rendition. So almost like a little dog. Maybe not a Jack Russell, Maltese poodle. Sounds more Maltese. But also a very distinct call and a very nice one. And then the third one, which I, as a young kid in the bush, we sort of nicknamed it a generator bird, because a lot of the places where I lived when I was very young, we didn't have, especially in the bush in Botswana, we didn't have electricity, and we used to run a generator for 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening when the guests were on game drive. So for us as little kids, it sounded very much like a generator to us, and a generator that was under a bit of pressure, so it changes pitch. Let me just get it up here now. So you can hear it. So for me as a kid, that sounded very much like a generator. So before I knew its proper name, which is a square-tailed nightjar, or Mozambique nightjar, we used to call it the generator bird. And nightjars are really, nightjars are really, really difficult. Where's my bird book? To identify. I'll show you now. They all look very similar, and without actually having them in your hand, it is very, very difficult to identify them. But also, if you do catch them, you've got to be very, very careful. They've got a very delicate bone structure. So you actually normally should go on a proper course on how to catch nightjars when you do bird ringing and things like that. Luckily enough, I have done that before. But again, we would never try catch or pick up something without having a reason to do it. So like if we were ringing it for study purpose, then we would. But while we're out here now, we would never really just pick up a nightjar for no reason. 246. Oh, hello Mark.
Hello Brent.
How are you doing?
Good, and you?
Very well, thanks. We've just been playing some nightjar calls because we saw so many of them on the road. I had to turn off my light constantly. Yeah. So we decided to play some, and I'm just going to show everyone how difficult it is to identify them unless they're calling.
Yeah. Or you have a deceased specimen.
Exactly.
Hi everyone. Didn't get a chance to say goodbye, so I'm going to say goodbye and thanks. Hope you're having fun with those bush babies. Wow.
Awesome. I heard it on there.
And then just as we lost camera, the mum came back.
Oh.
And she picked up baby and she jumped up into the marula with the baby.
Oh. Well, fantastic. Nice to know where they are, so they're going to be out of that hole again, hopefully.
Yeah. So I'll let you finish with that.
Yep.
Folks, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I'm looking forward to the morning. And from Brian. And Thumb. I'll go and wait for Alex.
Second appearance. Okay. So quickly here, you can see how difficult it would be to. Oh, sorry, let me just move it a bit back. And try to get how difficult it would be to identify a nightjar without it calling. So very similar. You start looking at who's got slightly longer white on the edge of the tail and white bars in the wings. So the best way to ID them is actually from their call. Anyway, guys, I think we are nearly up today. For tonight. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to find any of those leopards this afternoon, but it is the bush and that's the way it goes. So hopefully the guys will have more luck tomorrow morning. I'm not going to be out and drive tomorrow morning. It's my nap in tomorrow. So I'll be back with you tomorrow afternoon, and it'll be Scott and Mark with you in the morning. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully the guys can find you some cats in the morning. But other than that, from all of us out here, It's been a great afternoon. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you have. And I will see you tomorrow afternoon, but you'll see Mark and Scott in the morning.